Choice of a Young Voice.
Hello, welcome to The Choice of a Young Voice. This is a series where we talk about the different choices that we make as young people in this generation. Now, we're going to talk about something very important. Have you ever heard of piggy banks? When you were a young child, I don't know if, did your parents ever give you a box where you'd have to leave your coins inside and let it pile up? That's what we're talking about, saving. Have you been taught how to save from a young age? And if you haven't, don't you worry. That's what we're going to learn to do today. Saving and investing. And to help us understand this concept, we have two guests with us on set, Professor Rono and Mr. Jared. Hey, I always have a problem saying Jared Cheruiyot.
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 Yes, I got it. Yes, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Professor Rono is a professor in a university and also happens to be a businessman. Mm-hmm. He is going to help us understand how he managed to save and invest and become the person who he is today. Mm-hmm. Thank you for joining us. Jared is an amazing accountant, treasurer, all those things to do with money. And we thank God. Thank you for joining us today. We have an audience of young savers and investors, I hope, who are eager to learn more. Thank you for being here. Now, how do you develop that culture for saving and investing?
First of all, it's important to define what savings is all about. Savings has to do with that part of income that is dedicated or set aside for a period of time for purposes of investment or for purposes of taking care of your future needs. Mm-hmm. I would put it like that. Mm-hmm. Maybe Jared could tell us something about investment.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Basically, I believe saving helps you to create surplus, because when you put aside some income, then you will have surplus. And I believe someone who has surplus controls circumstances around him. But someone without surplus is controlled by the circumstances. So the only way to remain free, where you're in charge of things, is having this security of a little surplus to control whatever comes around you. And I believe that is when now you can have something to invest. If you do not have savings or surplus, then what will you invest from? Because investing means developing for the future. Yeah, and so without savings, you cannot invest.
Okay, thank you. Did you ever save coins in a box? How many did that at some point in their lives? Then you used all the money. Okay, maybe you could help us understand then, why is it important to have this culture? What are the benefits?
Mm-hmm. One of the benefits is that when you save, you are able to have future protection, financial security, and especially when you have saved, until you are able to invest, when you invest, you multiply that savings, and therefore it gives you an assurance, I would say, protection in the future. You are able to, as my colleague has said, you are able to control circumstances. You are able also to take care of your needs, and especially for us as youth, when we grow up, we get married and expenses grow. So when you have savings, you are able to take care of those new or increasing expenses.
Wow, thank you.
That's one benefit.
Yes, do you have more?
Yes, I think that is very important. Maybe to add to that also, one of the most important reasons for saving is to take care of those very rainy and difficult days. Even as a young person, you can easily go through very dry days where your savings will help work for you. Because right now you work for yourself, create some backup, but then there will be a time when you may not work, or you can be out of a job or sick. Your savings is what will work for you and help you keep moving. Another thing I thought of is there is this desire from all of us to stay debt-free. The only way to stay debt-free, especially as a young person, is to save. Or else, whatever you'd want to do, you may want to run for a debt.
Yeah.
And of course, as Professor said, it is good for improving your financial capability. The only way you can grow financially is by saving.
And then, as some of us, you know, African culture, I feel like we're not trained well enough from a young age on how to actually, you know, use your money well, save, and all those things. So we don't know how to use our money. When we have money, we just use it on things we want. It's hard. How do you develop that discipline for, I can actually put this aside and not touch it? When there's this really good phone, that, okay, maybe not even a good phone, it could be food, you know, this really nice meal you want to eat and you have this money. How can you have that?
Okay, to develop the saving culture, you actually have to learn to control yourself, to have self-control, to be determined that whatever you have decided that is not going to be touched, whether whatever comes, you're not going to touch that kind of money. So when we talk about the savings culture, you develop the culture by actually developing the habits, the habit of, you know, keeping it, saving it, and ensuring that you don't spend. Yeah, that is how you develop the culture.
Yeah.
And before you continue answering, does the amount of money you have matter? What if you feel like you have too little to put aside anything?
To me, I believe you must save however little you are earning, however little you are getting, because there is earning and there is also probably getting from parents. Especially as young people, we may still be depending on people who have brought us up, either parents or guardians. However little they give you, you will notice that even a shilling counts when it comes to saving. So it doesn't matter whatever level you are in. And I believe here parents play a very important role, which I believe probably Prof will tell us more about that. Parents play a very important role when it comes to encouraging that culture of saving from a very young, tender age. How they can be able to have that piggy bank, as you are saying, to be something so special, so that the child will always remember that before I even think of buying the candy sweets or whatever, I must make sure there is something in that box for the future. So I think parents play an important role, and at the same time, we should just be sure that before I spend, I should budget to save.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many of you save? You're about to add something.
Yes, I wanted to say on what you said. Even 20 bob, if you save 20 bob, say every day, by the end of the year, you'll be having almost 10,000 10,000 shillings. Yes, and that is a huge amount of money to invest in Kenya today. Yes.
Wow, we need to save. We really need to save. Before we move on,
have to be so
I don't want to cut out anyone. Is there someone with a comment or a question? Yes, Norman.
Thank you so much. You've mentioned something about saving and then investing in the future for maybe as a security to help you with other things. What about in this scenario? Maybe I'm earning, then I'm saving some amount of money for a period of time. Then this money I want to buy a house or build a house, or there's this car I've been yearning for in my life. Then I buy this car. So I don't know whether I've invested. How can you explain to me under that situation or scenario?
Yeah, maybe in terms of investment, first of all, we need to understand there's something known as priorities. Priorities. So if you are a young man and God has blessed you, you got a job. Let's say your first job, you know you've done your first 3 months, you are now in your 6th month, for example, and you've begun saving. The first things that you need to do is probably may not be to buy a car, because a car would be classified. You know, there are human beings have needs and what you call needs and wants. A car for you as a beginner would be classified as a want, not a need. What you need at the beginning is to have a house. You've mentioned about a house, because when you get a house, for example, in an urban setup where you are working, most of the time as youth, we get jobs in urban centers where we actually have to spend some good amount of money at the end of the month to pay rent. So if you go make your savings and eventually buy a house, you will stop paying rent. And therefore, that rent will be turned into an additional saving at the end of the day. So that is how you'll grow your money. But if you put your money in a car, that car, it will depreciate. And therefore, you actually be losing in the end. But a car would come much later in your life. That is how I would answer your question.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And actually, there is a difference between... That is why the word investment is important, because investment signifies a return that you expect. There are some expenditures that are purely consumables. Like, for example, if you want a car badly right now, then you know a car is a pure, ask anyone who has a car right now.
Yes.
It is a pure consumable. Especially if it is a private one for you. But to me, I wouldn't feel it's a problem if probably you have thought about it and you feel, if I have a car that can still help me generate some income for now, then there is no problem. But we should be certain that when we are saving, the best interest is to be able to get some returns out of it, and as Prof says, to grow that income. Yeah.
Okay, okay. There's one other behind there. Someone passing my microphone.
Is investment wholly advisable for people who are in active employment, or even people who are not? And then how could we best arrest this tendency of being attempted to use what you have saved because of some circumstances that come? Do you continue saving while some areas, maybe you are going hungry, someone is sick and something like that? It becomes difficult sometimes to go on saving. Yes.
Yeah.
How could we arrest that?
Please respond.
Yeah, in response to your question, when you have an income, let's say 100%, there is always it's important always to determine the proportion to save, so that when you agree with your partner, if you are married, for example, that we shall save 30%, then it will always be 30%. So should any eventuality come, any emergency come, you look for a way of how to sort it out outside the 30%. Yes, that is how I would put your question. Yes, but unless it's really critical that you go to touch that saving, I would say that always we would discourage that you touch that saving. Do with the 70% that you have. And there are other options, like for example, going for a loan, an emergency loan, to sort out your problem. But when you make a decision on the percentage, then that percentage should be really well thought out before you actually dedicate that as a saving. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, what Prof has said is very important. I would also add and say, one of the reasons why you can be able to have the proper use of the savings is when you live within your limits or within your means. You ensure that your expenditure is below your income. So that means every time you will ensure you have savings, because when your expenditure is below your income, what does that mean? You naturally have a surplus.
Yeah.
So when you have a surplus, your emergencies, whenever they come, the expenses that you have, that means they can be taken care of. But this surplus, because honestly, savings is meant for such emergencies as he has said. There won't be anything wrong to take from that. But when you are struggling, the way Prof said, when you are struggling, you can adjust. I have seen many scholars advising and many people who practice this thing very nicely say at least 20% of your income you can save, or 25%, but make sure at least you don't spend more than 50% of your income on your routine expenditures, so that you can save 20 and 25 and probably invest 25. And that is after considering what belongs to God. Should never forget.
Oh, yes. Amen. Amen.
In fact, that's what you should start with.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're running out of time,
Yes.
but we'll still continue expanding on this. Maybe you could also share with us how it has worked for you. Was it difficult? Did you have, at a young age, did you start saving from a young age? How did it actually work for you? But when you start talking, I might cut you short because of time.
It's okay. I would like to say, first of all, when I began, I used to save a small proportion of my income. But as time went by and I got a salary increase, so I also increased the amount of saving. That is how I was able to save. The other thing is, as a university professor, I used to do research. And I'm still doing research. And so my earnings from research, I decided that I will never touch my earnings from research. They would all go straight to the savings account. And then I would have a percentage of my salary again go to savings. That's how I was able to put my savings. And then that saving, I was able to top up with a loan and then be able to begin now to invest. I bought land. Then I was able to put up buildings. And gradually, I was able to establish a college. And from there, I've been able to grow as a businessman.
Wow.
In short, for now.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, this is nice. When we come back, we're going to go for a very short break right now. When we can come back, we're going to learn more on now how can we save as an employed person, as a young person probably who's still living under their parents' roof and is not earning anything. How can we, what are the practical ways we can do it right now? And especially if we never used to do it before, how can we develop this habit? Stay with us. Welcome back. You are watching The Choice of a Young Voice, and today we are talking about a very important topic that we need to learn as young people: the culture of saving and investing. Before we went on a break, Professor shared with us his story of how he managed to save and eventually invested as well. Jared, could you also share with us maybe, how you do it? It will inspire some of us.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I should thank God for Professor.
Yes.
He's one of my mentors, actually. That's why I really wanted to be with him in such a forum. As a young person, I have seen the culture of saving so important for me. As young people, we must be honest. There are some things we would like to just do for fun, things that will make me feel good. Like, for example, acquiring a bicycle, getting a very nice watch, a nice phone. I noticed sometimes it is very possible to buy those things that may not be necessarily needs at that time, but they are very good for a young person. You would feel accomplished without necessarily going for a debt. And the only thing I noticed which helped me is by planning ahead. I do not jump and say today I need a watch, because if I will say I need a watch right now, the only way I would have gotten it is to go for a loan, a soft loan from someone or even from my parent. But how I achieved this, like for buying my first bicycle, which I even used in campus, I saved little by little, and I knew I just targeted, I said by September, the next September, I need two things. I need a computer, which I will use for my classwork, and I need a bicycle, which I'll use to rush to school. So from my small pocket money that I was receiving, and probably some help loan, I set aside some specific amount. And I built it for the following 5 or 6 months before the next semester. Sometimes it would not be enough, obviously, but when I went to my parent and told him, do you know what? I need this, and so far I have this. Do you know, it was so easy for my parent to tell me, oh, Jared, that is good. What is the remaining? Most of the time it is almost 25% that is only remaining. He would find it easy to just top up, the way Prof is saying. And I acquired my computer in second year. Those days computers were not so easily acquired. So when I had one, that was really an achievement because of what I had saved. And then I also acquired a mountain bike. That time, do you know, in campus, having a mountain bike was like driving a car. So I was really happy about that, and it's because I saved. Though it was not enough, but at least when my father and my mother, especially the computer, it's my mom who helped me to buy. When she saw that I had saved to this extent, she helped me buy the computer.
Wow.
Because I had saved enough.
Thank you, thank you. These are very inspiring stories. Now let us, maybe you could help us learn now how to actually develop that culture.
Develop the culture.
Yes.
I would like to say that there are 3 institutions in our society or communities that can help us to, to inculcate the culture of saving. And that begins with the family. The first one is the family. The second one is the school. And the third one would be the employer or a workplace. So those are the 3 places where we can actually learn to develop the culture of saving. Let me talk about the family. There are 2 issues in the family. The first one is in the family, we can teach our children to learn how to save by participating even in the simple budgeting in the family, where you have to do the budget, let the children get involved in actually drawing the line items to be purchased. And then as you do so, make sure that there is a separation between one's needs and wants. So the child will learn and see the difference between needs and wants. And they will realize that needs are those things that are necessary, you must have them. Then the wants are those things that you may not. And so as we show them how to make the choices, at that point they learn. The second one within the family is also to help them do practically on behalf of the family. Like, for example, the youth. When the youth are grown up, you can actually entrust them with shopping. They can go do shopping themselves, and you stay home as mom and dad. That is how they learn how to save. And then you tell them, you have 1,000 shillings, please ensure that you come back with 200 shillings. And they go struggle and come back with 150 shillings. And you say, congratulations. Or they come back with 100 shillings. Say, fantastic, you've made an achievement. So that's how we can learn within the family.
Thank you, thank you. Maybe you can expound more.
Maybe I can touch on the issue of school. You see, in schools we can come up with savings clubs. Yes, and through this, our children and our youth can learn. In school also, we can, at the moment we don't have this in our schools. We can actually incorporate in the curriculum what we call financial literacy. And through this financial literacy, we are able to teach the young people, the children, the youth, to know how to save and develop that culture. Yes. So through those we can, yes. Of course, for the employer like him, you can always work with your employer by asking, like him, if he's my employer, for example, I would always say, please send 10% of my income to the bank, so that I don't come into contact with that amount. So he just sends that money maybe to a cooperative society, for example, and that's how we actually improve the habits and the culture of saving. Thank you.
Wow, wow, thank you. Do you have more?
Yes, probably. I thank God for that insight from the school, family, and employment insight. If I look at it from the personal way now, how do I develop it myself? I think the first thing I should have is a plan on expenditure. What do I need to spend on? And put the priorities very clear also there. What do I need? What do I want? The way we say it. And then number 2, we need to always have a budget. However small, even if you are a student and you receive 5,000 as your income or your pocket money, you must have a budget, whether written down which is most preferable, or even in your mind if you're very sharp. You know that with this 5,000, this is what I need to do. For example, for all children of God, we know we have to put aside what is God's money.
Yes.
Should be in the budget. 10% goes to God. Then you look at, based on point number 1, what you need to spend on, you will say, these are my recurrent expenditures. Let me put maybe another 2,000 for my housing or for food or whatever. And then number 3, in that budget, there must be the line item for saving, the way Prof had said. It must be there clear in your budget. Even if it's 5,000, 1,000 probably saving, or 500, or however little, depending on what you're spending on. And then after that, of course, something small to invest also, which is very necessary. Those 4 parts, giving to God, your recurrent expenses, savings, and then investments must be in your budget. So in whatever little income you have, make sure there is a clear budget on how to spend on it. Don't just start spending the moment you receive money, and you start from the word go without necessarily
10,000.
planning.
Yes,
because
thank you.
there is a lot of things that will look for that money.
That's true.
And they are always available.
That's true.
Yeah.
Before now, I would like you to explain more about now investing, you know, how we can start investing as young people. But before that, I'm giving allowance to one, hey, wow. Okay, let's start with this gentleman and then the lady.
Can you develop that culture of saving when you are maybe 35 to 40?
What do you...
When you are...
You're already old.
Yes.
Okay. There's, the next question, we'll answer them.
Okay, my question is it proper to save in a bank, or it's just good if we save at home? Because we find that when you save in bank, the interest is too small after 1 year. Because I think the professor should just tell us if it is proper to save at home or in bank. Because at home you find that if you have money, you can start up a business, and after 1 year, the profit will be much than the interest in bank after 1 year.
Okay. Yes. Sorry.
Mine is just a need for clarification. There's some preachers in the church who tend to tell the youths that it is not actually necessary to deduct some tithe from the money you're given by your parents, arguing that the parent from the income has already deducted a sum for the tithe and offering. So to what extent do you agree with this ideology?
Before we continue, we can answer those 3 questions.
Okay, maybe Jared, you do the first one?
Yes, the first one was about at what age.
Yes, if
Maybe,
you're already 35, can you start then?
Yeah, what I'm understanding is, can you correct the error of not saving?
Yes.
Yeah, because probably you have lived, the habit of just spending everything without saving. It is very possible to always have a turnaround. I have seen so many instances of people who were literally bankrupt. But when they decided to turn around, they went from being bankrupt to very financially stable and wealthy people. It is very, very possible. All you need to do is to check out your bad spending habits and replace them with good ones. This is a very sincere thing. It will require sacrifice. It will require extreme discipline. Because that means every time before you start spending, you have to pause and ask yourself, is this actually necessary? What do I need to spend on? So it is very possible to turn around. There is no age you can say it is no longer safe to start saving. You can save as young as 2 years old, or 3, 4, 5 years old, and you can even start right now. When you're 35, when you're 40 already, you can still save. So long as you're still alive, save. Because it is only God who knows the future.
Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. To our sister, our second question on how is it okay to put our savings in the bank or keep it at home? I would say yeah, it depends on what level you are in your savings. If, for example, you have a target, when you make a saving, you'll always save with an intention of investing. Sometimes you may invest 100% of that saving, or invest 50% of that saving, and that kind of thing. But probably the bank may not be the most appropriate place to put your money, to multiply your money. The best is to actually, as you put it, is to invest in a business enterprise that will grow your money. Or you can even put your money, like in Kenya, there are regions like the cities. When you buy in a town, if you buy a plot and just leave it there, it will grow faster than the way your money would grow in the bank. The bank would grow at 7%. If you buy land, it will grow around 50%, between 30% and 50% in a year. So that is the right place to put your money. If you are self-employed, then you can put your money in the business that you are managing. But if you are not employed, then you better put your money in a place where it can grow in your absence. Yes, or if you have time out from your place of work, you can invest in a business that you can have some little oversight, maybe during your time out of your place of work.
Wow.
Yes,
Okay.
and your money will grow.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's very key. And I also noticed these days in Kenya, we've had something that is so popular with ladies, merry-go-rounds.
The chamas.
Do you hear the chamas?
Yes.
To be very honest, I think this is a very practical way of saving also. I've seen it amongst, even my own wife, she belongs to a few of them. Initially, I used to be worried, what if those people run away with the money? But I noticed you can get people who are trustworthy, whom you are connected with one purpose. Like, for example, if you belong to one church together,
Yes.
or you are in one office together, you work for the same company, you can create a merry-go-round where all of you save something and it's given to one person. We know how it works. That one helps you to save, because every month, especially if you belong to one of those teams, every month you know you have to give. So it will force you to save, because you received during your turn, so someone else is waiting for his turn. So it will help you to give all the time. And you know, when you finally receive that huge amount, then you can invest the way the professor is saying. So that's one way. If the bank, you may be a bit worried about the banks, you can use the merry-go-rounds. On top of that, you can use trusted people also. See, there are some people who can be very trusted to you. You tell them, do you know what? Keep this money from me until it builds to some amount, then I can use it to do something serious.
Wow. Okay.
By the way, I was checking, Charet, the amount of money that is kept among the called the merry-go-rounds. Yeah, it's now over, in Kenya, it's over 100 billion.
Wow.
It's over 100 billion. Research has shown that people have saved beyond 100 billion. So it's one of the most reliable ways of investing. Thank you.
About tithe.
Tithe, yes. The truth is, if you are receiving, then that is an earning. So if for a student, if you got some money from your parent, pocket money from your parent, it's an income. It's an income. As much as, or as long as that income or that pocket money would not go 100% to meet your needs that your parent has told you to meet. If, for example, your parent tells you, here is your 1,000 shillings, you are going to buy whatever you run short, then if at the end of the month you have spent only 500, then the 500 shillings you have remained with is actually an earning, is an income. So you give tithe 10% of that. Yeah, it's not always that 100% of what you get from your parent is actually what you're supposed to give as tithe. For example, if I'm in school and I've been sent via M-Pesa by my parent 2,000 shillings to buy, the basics, the basic needs like soap and whatever, then I remain with 600 shillings. That is the 600 we are considering. Yes. We don't consider the 2,000 you are given. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And I would clearly encourage every young person, if you want to save, do it to God first.
Amen.
Give
Amen.
tithe to God. That is one of the surest ways to save and invest, because it shows that you're partnering with God, even in your financial life.
Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you so much. Now, investing. We don't even have much time to get into it
Yes.
much. Maybe you can introduce what are the ways we can invest as young people?
Okay,
Who
maybe,
is-
Jared can-
yes.
can start us off.
I think this requires a lot of creativity. Yeah, because you know, for you to invest, then you must have innovative ideas on where to put your money so that you can generate returns. That is the basic principle. You must do something that will bring returns. And so you need to look for creative ideas of how you can invest so that you can get the soonest returns. For example, take an example. Right now, one of the things that is so detrimental to the saving culture for young people is betting. You know the issue called betting in the televisions. Actually, every day you will find almost 10 to 15 advertisements during prime time for betting, most of them sports. I also checked some document that we were looking at with Prof here, where it says the betting industry is almost 2.1 billion now in a year.
Much more than
and
that.
they are annually growing, almost 7% growth in the annual returns on betting.
Wow.
So that shows you clearly the betting industry is not meant to grow the income of young people. That is the fact that young people need to know. Betting industry does not grow your income. Instead, it steals your income. So if you have seen such a problem as a young person, what innovative idea is there for you?
And
Do you
I
know
will
you?
pause there.
Yeah, yes.
Pause there. We are going to come back
Yes.
and now you'll advise us now as your closing remarks on the best ways we can invest as young people. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back. You are watching The Choice of a Young Voice, and we are talking about saving and investing. Before we went on a break, Mr. Jared here was explaining to us ways that steal our money, like betting. Maybe you can continue.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I was actually looking at the innovative ways that you can come up with to invest.
Yes.
And we saw that problem of betting, you know, is taking away money for all the youths. So the best thing you could do, look for an idea. If youths are having this challenge, probably can I begin a rehabilitation center to help those who are addicted already, or show them how they can invest that income very fast. And what I would say is that you do not need to be so risk aversive. Be willing to risk so that you can invest. Have a passion. Let me say this very fast. Have a passion. Say, what line of investment would I like? Choose someone who can be a mentor on that line. If you want someone who has done real estate, look for someone like, for example, Professor. Ask him, how did you begin? Professor will show you how you can begin small. If you are in campus, there are some aspects that are very free to begin in campus, like photocopying machine, selling foods to the students. Don't fear to begin. Just begin. When you begin investing like that, slowly you learn, because you are the one who will teach yourself as you continue. It can be a unique situation for everyone. So depending on the circumstances where you are in, if you are a student, look at the options that are available for you, which you will have passion in. Then look for an accountability partner or a mentor in that area, so that you can get a little experience and then risk and start the investment.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much, Jared. In addition, I would like to say, though, that as youth, we would classify youth into two categories: those of us who are through campus, those who have been employed, and those of us who have not been employed, although we are through with campus. Let me begin with those of us who have been employed. When you are employed and you have been able to save a certain percentage, let's say 20% or 25%, as Jared put it, of your income, you can actually top up that saving by just going for additional loan and top up that saving and start investing on the various types of business enterprises or business ideas we would like to mention. But before we come to that, let me talk about those who are not employed. Those of us who have left campus, we are at home, we don't even have a huge income, but at the end of the day, there are so many business ideas, business enterprises we can start between 5,000 to 100,000 shillings. And with that, such as, for example, you talked about photocopying, I would say, for example, selling food, selling even juices, you can begin small like that and keep making profit and saving again and multiplying. There are other areas like selling second-hand clothes. One of the most rewarding business ideas in this country is selling second-hand clothes. You get almost 100%. You buy something at 50 shillings, you sell it at 100 shillings. And people just buy. You already make 100% profit and that kind of thing. So there are quite a number. Maybe Jared could mention a number of enterprises that we as youth can start working on and be able actually to utilize our savings. Even if we don't have a saving, even if we have this tiniest thing, 5,000, even with 5,000, you can build an empire, business empire in the long run. What is required as youth is patience and consistency in doing that kind of business you have determined to do.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Yes.
Thank you. Maybe I would want to add and say you may not really necessarily need huge amounts of income to start investing.
Yeah.
With the little that you have, look for business ideas that can start with that so that you can grow others based on that. You can even start an online marketing. Young people have smartphones these days. You can start marketing things on Facebook or on a YouTube account, something like that, which generate income these days. So you don't really need to start big. Because starting big, you may need to wait for donors. But start small with whatever you have. Don't fear to do any job. You can even start by cleaning, and from that, start a cleaning company. You see, haven't you seen of graduates who have cleaning companies and they manage them? Yeah, so I think the issue is start small and then slowly by slowly you grow. And of course, as you partner with God.
As a last one.
In 5 seconds.
Yes. We can also partner. I almost forgot that.
Yes.
You can come together, 2 people, 3 people, and you can do it.
Partnerships.
Yes,
Oh, yes.
partnerships.
Thank you so much. This has been a crash program on saving and investing. I'm sure we need to have a part 2 of this to learn more about different ways we can develop this culture that's important for every young person in this generation. I hope you've learned a lot. Thank you for watching. See you next week.